Hello, time for another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is Something New, Tales from a Makeshift Bride, written and illustrated by Lucy Knisley and published by First Second in 2016. It's 292 pages. Lucy Knisley is a cartoonist and musician who specializes in writing nonfiction graphic memoirs. And this particular book is about her wedding. Lucy and her partner John had been together for 5 years when their relationship hit a brick wall. There was a big disagreement between the two. She wanted to have children, and he did not. And so they decided that their relationship couldn't go further, and so they split up after 5 years together. And for 3 years, they were apart, but they were both miserable during this separation period. They weren't happy with the people they were dating, and they came to realize that they really belonged together. And so John changes his mind on children, and they decide to get back together. And then, even though both of them were skeptical about the institution of marriage, they decide to get married. And Lucy decides she wants a big traditional wedding. And that's mainly what this book is about the exhaustive wedding planning process and how traumatic it was for Lucy. In order to try to save money on the wedding, they decide to have the wedding at her mother's upstate New York farm. Her mother was a caterer, and she offered to have the wedding at her farm. The problem is, by this point, Lucy and John had moved to Chicago. So she's trying to plan a wedding that's going to take place halfway across the country. And to make things even more complicated, her mother, the caterer, gradually tries to take over the whole wedding, making suggestions and kind of insisting on various things. And the whole thing comes to a head when they have a big fight over, of all things, the music to be played at the reception. Her mom wanted a live band. The problem is the live bands she wanted to have were basically kind of folky bands with banjos, accordions, and fiddles, whereas the bride wanted to have recorded music of mostly indie rock standards that she and her fiance were in favor of. So they have a big fight over that, but eventually they work out their differences. She also has a traumatic experience in picking wedding dresses. She's shocked by how terrible they look, how uncomfortable they are, and how incredibly expensive they are. So she tries on literally dozens of wedding dresses before by chance she stumbles onto the perfect dress. And that's basically kind of the theme of the whole thing, is kind of chaotic attempt to get things done, and everything kind of works out more or less at the end. There's also scattered through the book little subsections about various wedding traditions as she was researching all of this, trying to find out where all this stuff came from. Why does the bride throw a bouquet at the end of the wedding? Or the garter thing, how did that come about? Why throw rice at a wedding? Why do guests throw rice? And in Scandinavian countries, why do they put coins in the bride's shoes? And there's all kinds of explanations that doesn't really advance the plot very much, but it's kind of additional information about the wedding. And then, of course, as the wedding day gets closer, it's just a few days away, it becomes clear that it may rain, and they planned on having the wedding outside because there's not enough room in the building that they were going to have the wedding ceremony in. And so they had to find a tent at the last minute to ward off the rain. So there's all kinds of stresses in here. And at the end, to me, one of the nicest chapters is the very end, where it's 6 months since the wedding, and they're back in Chicago, and they're on a little bike ride together, and they stop in front of, I think it's City Hall, and there's a wedding taking place outside, and she looks back on her own wedding and with kind of nostalgia. So it's a book that if you've gone through a big wedding, or you are about to go through a big wedding, you'll certainly relate to a lot of this. You may even get some hints or helpful ideas on this. But if you're a person who the word wedding causes your eyes to glaze over, then this is not the book for you. I mean, there's some people that will just say, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with this. Personally, I think the book, while it's a fun book, it's full of humor and really nicely done character studies of all the people involved. I do think it's too long at almost 300 pages. This story could have been told more concisely, and she could have probably cut 100 pages out of this and told a more concise story. But it's still certainly worth reading if you're interested in the whole wedding process in the United States. In the end, though, my own personal experience is light years away from this, because I got married in a Las Vegas wedding chapel. That the whole ceremony lasted, I think, 15 minutes, and there were only 4 people there. And yet I'm still married over 3 decades later. So in the end, the wedding ceremony itself isn't really that important. What is important are your commitment to your partner and your commitment to the idea of marriage. It's clear that some people have more commitment to their local sports team than they do to their own marriage. Because there's some people that are married 3, 4, and 5 times. They really don't take the whole idea of marriage all that seriously. The whole "to death do you part," they don't really take that seriously. So, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship with someone, you have to be committed to that person, their good and bad points, and you have to be committed to the idea of a lifetime partnership, whether it's a formal marriage or just living together. So in any case, I think if you are interested in the idea of weddings, you'll certainly enjoy this book. And if you've read some of Lucy Knisley's other books, or books like on her travelogue books, or her books on eating and food and culinary stuff, I think you'll certainly enjoy this. She's still married, and she has a child now, so it looked like the institution took in her case. The book is Something New. The author is Lucy Knisley. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.